Hello! I have a list of classic actors that I would like to do favorites videos for because I like them and because I've seen sizable portions of their work, and one of them is Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn was one of the dominant movie stars of the 50s and 60s, so iconic that she's still widely recognized and loved by people today. She was distinct in look, voice, and accent, not someone who fit the traditional definition of a beauty at the time, yet was and is considered one of the classiest, most attractive motion picture stars ever. She was a fashion icon and a dancer, but also a real-life personality whose modesty, graciousness, and genuine good nature made her a role model for many. Of the movies she made, I've seen about half, and of those, I have three definite favorites. One is 1953's Roman Holiday. This romantic comedy was Hepburn's first major film role, in which she plays unhappy Princess Anne, exhausted by a highly publicized European tour, who runs away from her embassy in Rome and meets an American reporter played by Gregory Peck. I love the first few scenes between Hepburn and Peck when she's falling under sedation and he doesn't know what to do with her. The dialogue between them is great, with his amused consternation and her incoherent rambling, and her delivery is perfect, making an already comical situation absolutely hilarious. Hepburn is delightful here. She had an inherent nobility in her bearing, which makes her a natural as a princess, and as Anya, she really shines. She's lovable and vivacious, but in a shy way that's really appealing. For her performance, she won the Best Actress Oscar. The movie also garnered Oscars for Edith Head's costumes and Dalton Trumbo's writing, though Trumbo's blacklisted name was not credited at the time. Roman Holiday was filmed on location in black and white for practical reasons, but to great effect. The charm and bluster of Rome and its inhabitants wonderfully complements the two stars, and there are so many famous scenes: the Vesper ride, the haircut, the Mouth of Truth scene with Gregory Peck's improvisation winning that adorable reaction from Hepburn. The romance is lovely, the comedy is tons of fun, and that bittersweet ending is classic. This movie has become a comfort watch for me, and I enjoy it more every time I see it. Another favorite is 1964's My Fair Lady, the film adaptation of the Lerner and Loewe stage musical based on the George Bernard Shaw play Pygmalion, with Hepburn as Cockney flower girl Eliza Doolittle and Rex Harrison as Henry Higgins, the linguistics professor who sets out to transform her into a lady. I saw this movie a lot when I was a kid, mostly because it's my sister's favorite musical, so I watched it many times with her. When it came on TV the other night, I was surprised to realize just how many of the lines we used to go around quoting. The cast is wonderful. Audrey Hepburn is outrageously funny, exuberant, heartbreaking, and dignified. Her body language alone conveys so much about the character, the way she awkwardly stomps around at first, then later the way she moves so gingerly, as if afraid of breaking. And even when she's happy, there's still a constant undercurrent of doubt and vulnerability. I suppose I can't not mention the infamous dubbing controversy. Hepburn was very disappointed when she was informed that the majority of her singing would be dubbed by Marni Nixon, especially because she'd been promised otherwise. She'd previously sung in Funny Face, and she'd been working hard rehearsing the music already. I have listened to Hepburn's vocal tracks. Someone on YouTube did the painstaking work of syncing the audio with the film clips, and though I Could Have Danced All Night is out of her range, I think they could have allowed her more than just 10%. The bulk of her singing in the film can be heard in the song Just You Wait, and its reprise later. It's not great singing. Marni Nixon is certainly superior vocally, but it has more raw emotion, and the transition to singing, since it's still Hepburn's voice, seems smoother and more natural. And her vocals in the song Without You, not used in the film, while technically flawed, have all that flair and fire with which she plays the character, which, to me, Marni Nixon doesn't always capture. That said, the dubbing in no way spoils my enjoyment of the movie, and as for the rest of the cast, it's great as well. Rex Harrison's Henry Higgins is awesome. He's rude and selfish and shouty, but so very entertaining, and I enjoy the way Harrison flies through the linguistic gymnastics of the script. There's also Stanley Holloway and Wilfred Hydewhite, whose real name I can never remember because he's just always been Colonel Pickering to me, and Gladys Cooper and Jeremy Brett, who was a fine singer himself, himself, but ended up dubbed by Bill Shirley, the man who voiced my favorite Disney prince, Philip, in Sleeping Beauty. If you want to hear some sheepish personal trivia, when I was a kid, I wanted to fast forward through the boring songs, mainly On the Street Where You Live, which has since become one of my favorite love songs in all of musical theater. I know all the words, and I know them in the right order, so it's one of the songs that I like to randomly burst out singing when I'm alone. I've had a similar reversal with the song I've Grown Accustomed to Her Face, which I've decided is one of the best It Just Suddenly Hit Me, I Have Feelings for This Person songs ever, though it's got a little competition for me with Louis Jourdain's rendition of Gigi from the film Gigi, also written by Lerner and Lowe. Anyway, the script is brilliant, the songs are clever and catchy, and the costumes are fantastic, especially that ascot dress. It's a great, fun movie. Favorite number 3 is 1967's Wait Until Dark, which is a completely different kind of movie from the other two that I've talked about. It's a thriller in which Hepburn plays Susie, a blind woman terrorized by 3 men who are trying to find a doll stuffed with drugs that's hidden somewhere in her apartment. This is one of my mom's favorites, and it's become one of mine as well. It's one of those movies that if we come across it playing on TV, we have to watch it all the way to the end every time. It often makes it onto lists of other films you should see if you like Hitchcock movies, and I definitely agree. If you are a Hitchcock fan, you should by all means see this movie. Hepburn does an excellent job. She's very convincing as a woman who's only recently lost her vision and is struggling to get used to her new way of life, not just with not being able to see and all of those inconveniences, but also the emotional insecurities and frustrations. This is not a glamorous role. She's just an ordinary woman who has the misfortune to live in the apartment that these guys want to get into. We automatically like her and sympathize with her, and that makes it all the more upsetting when these 3 criminals start closing in on her. The 3 bad guys are played by Alan Arkin, Richard Crenna, and Jack Weston. Jack Weston is the impatient thug, Richard Crenna is the tricky, somewhat likable one who pretends to be an old friend of Susie's husband to gain her confidence, and Alan Arkin is incredible in this movie. This is one of his best performances, which is saying a lot because he's an actor who is good in everything he does. He's also usually a likable character, but here, nope! He's an absolute creep. The story goes that nobody wanted to play this part because they didn't want to be seen as the guy who tortures Audrey Hepburn. Well, Arkin got the part, and he went all in with his performance. The voice and accent he uses are unforgettable, his character, his personality makes your skin crawl, and the last part of the movie is so intense, a justly famous, frightening climax. It's a tightly knit movie, a small cast, mostly confined to the apartment, accompanied by Henry Mancini's simple, very unnerving score, and it all works together so well. You definitely can't miss this one, and when you do see it, try watching it in the dark if you can. So those are my 3 favorite Audrey Hepburn movies. I also have a couple of honorable mentions. First, The Nun's Story. Hepburn plays a young Belgian woman who joins a convent and struggles to suppress her will and her pride. I originally had this movie listed as favorite number 4, but then I took it off because I'd only seen it once, but then they played it on TV and I stayed up until 4 a.m. watching it, so there you go. This is another favorite of my mom's that I've adopted. We both enjoy watching the character's journey as she battles with conscience and temptation and disappointment. I should also mention, since I've brought him up a couple times already this year, this movie has another very good, memorable role for Peter Finch, playing the doctor in the Belgian Congo who befriends Hepburn's character. Second, you can't list Audrey Hepburn movies without mentioning Breakfast at Tiffany's. I personally am not a big fan of the movie. The first time I saw it, I didn't care for it, though I have rewatched most of it recently, and I liked it better. Hepburn, though, is undeniably radiant in this film. It's another movie that shows off her natural comedic timing, her dramatic talent, and her impeccable style. And for a third and final honorable mention, I think I'll go with Charade, the mystery, comedy, romance, suspense film she stars in opposite Cary Grant. They are very enjoyable together, and the movie has some excellent funny moments. Alright, so now you know my list. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know if we share any Audrey Hepburn favorites, or if you have a favorite that I did not mention. I'd love to know what you think, so go ahead and let me know, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching! Bye!